Imagine standing at a crossroads in life, where everything you've known is suddenly called into question. The world is loud, the answers unclear, and the search for truth feels endless. But what if, in the midst of that confusion, you found something that brought you peace, not just in your mind, but deep in your soul? What if one decision could change everything? Today, I'm about to share a story that will shake you, challenge you, and awaken something inside you. This is a journey of courage, transformation, and the power of embracing your truest self. Stay with me. There comes a time in many people's lives when they pause and ask the deeper questions. Why am I here? What is my purpose? Am I truly happy? For this man, raised in a Christian household with traditions passed down for generations, the journey began with a quiet discomfort. He did everything right, attended church, read the Bible, lived with integrity, but something within still felt incomplete, a kind of emptiness that success, routine, and even faith as he knew it couldn't fill. And that's when the transformation began. Not with an event, but with a feeling, a longing, a whisper of the soul that said, "There's more." What started as a quiet curiosity led to nights of reading, reflection, and honest prayer. He wasn't running from what he knew, he was reaching for something deeper, something true. He wanted clarity, he wanted peace, he wanted to wake up each day with a heart full of purpose, not just routine. Let's pause here, take a breath, because this isn't just about one man's story, it's about you too. If you've ever felt that quiet ache inside, if you've ever had moments where life felt like it was missing something, then stay with me, because you're not alone, and more importantly, you're not stuck. This man's transformation wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even planned, but it was real. It came from an honest search for truth, and in return, he found something priceless: fulfillment. He discovered that happiness isn't just a feeling, it's a result of living with purpose, clarity, and connection to something greater. Are you listening closely? Because the path to wisdom and joy often begins with one small question: what if there's more? Let's explore that together. There's a powerful kind of struggle that often stays hidden behind polite smiles and quiet prayers. The struggle with faith. It's not about rejecting God. It's not about rebellion. It's about standing in the middle of what you've always believed and feeling like something doesn't add up. That's where this man found himself. Raised with Christian teachings, surrounded by people who meant well, he still found himself asking, why doesn't this fill me the way it should? It's a hard place to be. You pray, but the peace doesn't come. You go through the motions, but the meaning feels shallow. And deep inside, there's a quiet whisper asking, is there more? Let's reset for a second. Take a breath, this is important. Not just for him, but for you. If you've ever looked around and thought, there must be something deeper, then pay close attention. Because wisdom often begins with discomfort. And happiness, it doesn't come from ignoring the questions, it comes from facing them. This man's struggle wasn't about losing faith, it was about finding a faith that felt whole, real, alive. He started searching, not to abandon what he knew, but to understand it better. He wasn't afraid to be honest with himself, and that's where the transformation began. There's power in that kind of honesty. There's courage in asking the hard questions. And there's freedom in saying, I want more than belief. I want truth. I want peace. I want to feel alive again. And maybe that's where you are. Maybe you've been carrying the weight of questions you've never dared to ask. It's okay, that's not weakness. That's the start of something extraordinary. Keep going. You're closer to clarity than you think. Sometimes it only takes a few words to change a life. Not a book, not a lecture, just a moment, and a sentence spoken from the heart. That moment came when this man, after years of searching, finally declared, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadur Rasul Allah. The Shahada, the testimony of faith in Islam. Simple in form, but powerful beyond imagination. These words are more than a religious phrase. They are a declaration of purpose, a release from confusion, a doorway into clarity. When he spoke them, something shifted, not just in his mind, but in his heart, in his spirit. It was as if the weight he had been carrying for years had been lifted, and for the first time, he could breathe freely. Let's stop here, let's reset, because if you're someone who's been looking for peace, wondering if there's more to life than routine and responsibilities, this is the moment to lean in. The power of the Shahada lies in its truth. It doesn't promise instant perfection. It doesn't erase the past, but it marks a new beginning, a moment where you say, I found something real. I found something that makes sense, not just intellectually, but spiritually. This man didn't just repeat words. He surrendered his ego, he embraced truth. He found alignment between his heart and his actions, and that created a happiness no paycheck or praise could ever give. So ask yourself, what words are you living by? What truths are guiding your life? Because sometimes one sentence can spark a new chapter, and for those who are truly seeking to be wise, intelligent, and genuinely happy, those words might be closer than you think. Sometimes life speaks in a language that's not loud or obvious. It whispers, it nudges, it places signs in front of us, quiet moments that seem small at the time, but later we realize they were divine. That's what happened to this man. He wasn't looking for a new religion. He wasn't chasing change, but one moment after another began to speak to him. A conversation, a video, a verse, a stranger's kindness. And little by little, something inside started to awaken. He began to notice what he once overlooked, feel what he once ignored, and in those subtle signs he felt something far more powerful than coincidence. He felt guided, not by people, not by pressure, but by something greater, by God. Let's take a second to reset. Just breathe. Because this isn't just about one man's story, it's about you. How many times have you felt that inner pull, that quiet voice urging you towards something better, something more meaningful? This man followed that voice, even when it was uncomfortable, even when it led him to places that challenged everything he thought he knew. But every step forward brought more clarity, more peace, more truth. That's how divine guidance works. It doesn't always show up with lightning or loud signs. Sometimes it's a gentle tug on your heart, and when you listen, really listen, it leads you to a life you didn't know was possible. For anyone out there who's tired of going through the motions, who wants more than just survival, pay attention to those small moments. They could be the signs you've been asking for, because when God guides you, there's no force on earth that can hold you back from a life of wisdom, purpose, and real, lasting happiness. When this man took his Shahada, the world didn't stay silent. Social media exploded, comments poured in. Some were filled with admiration, others with confusion, a few even with anger, but one thing was clear. People were shocked, not because it was wrong, but because it was real, unapologetically real. And when someone walks boldly into truth, it wakes people up. This wasn't just another trending story. It was a mirror. It made people reflect on their own beliefs, their own lives, and their own choices. Because when someone stands in front of the world and says, I've found peace in Islam, it challenges others to ask, what am I really living for? Let's pause here for a second, reset your focus. Think about this. Why do stories like this capture the world's attention? Why do millions stop to watch, listen, and feel? It's because deep down, we all crave truth. We all want to see someone break through the noise and live with purpose. The reactions weren't just noise, they were proof. Proof that truth has power, that faith still moves people, that there's something magnetic about a soul that finds peace and refuses to hide it. This man didn't convert to be accepted. He didn't say the Shahada for likes, he did it for his soul, and in doing so, he stirred the hearts of millions. Now here's the real question. What does your life stir in others? Are you living a life that inspires? A life that reflects courage, peace, and meaning? Because when you choose truth over comfort, peace over performance, people notice. And more importantly, you begin to live with the kind of joy no one can take from you. There's something powerful about stepping into the unknown. It's not easy. In fact, it's one of the hardest things a human being can do, especially when it means walking away from everything you've ever known. This man made that choice. He left behind the comfort of his upbringing, the familiarity of family traditions, the security of being accepted by everyone around him, all for one reason: truth. He knew what it would cost. He knew people would talk. He knew some friends would walk away and some loved ones might never understand. But he also knew something deeper, something wiser. He knew that living a life of truth was worth more than staying safe in a lie. Let's stop for a moment. Think about your own life. Have you ever felt like you were living on autopilot, doing what's expected, following what's familiar, but deep down, feeling unfulfilled? That's why this key moment matters, because it reminds us growth never happens in the comfort zone. Wisdom isn't built on staying where it's easy. And happiness, true, deep, lasting happiness, it comes when you choose to align your life with what your soul knows is right. This man didn't just change his religion. He reclaimed his life. He made a decision that said, I want peace more than I want popularity. I want purpose more than I want approval. And in that moment, he stepped into a life of meaning. So ask yourself, what are you holding on to that's keeping you from stepping forward? What fear is standing between you and the life you were meant to live? Because sometimes all it takes is one bold step. One decision to say, I choose truth, I choose happiness, I choose to live fully. Starting now. There are moments in life when you don't just read something, you feel it. It speaks to you. It reaches past the noise of your mind and lands straight in your heart. That's what happened to this man the first time he truly opened the Quran. Not just to scan the words, not just to study it like a textbook, but to listen. With his heart, his doubts, and his hope wide open. What he found wasn't just information, it was revelation, it was clarity in the middle of confusion, it was peace where anxiety once lived. Every verse felt intentional, every page felt personal, as if the author of the universe was speaking directly to him. Let's pause here, reset your focus, ask yourself, when was the last time something you read made you feel seen? When was the last time it brought you not just answers, but peace? The Quran didn't overwhelm him with rules. It didn't demand blind obedience. It invited him to reflect, to question, and to come closer to the one who created him. It spoke about purpose, about pain, about patience, about love, and about the kind of happiness that isn't based on possessions, but on presence. The presence of God. And for a man searching for wisdom, for meaning, for joy that doesn't fade with the seasons, this book became a light in the darkness. He didn't just accept a religion, he connected with a message that reminded him who he was, why he was here, and where true peace is found. So here's the question, what are you filling your mind with? What voices are shaping your beliefs? Because when the soul hears truth, it recognizes it. And that recognition, that's where happiness begins. There's a kind of peace the world can't give you. It's not found in a new car, a bigger house, or a better paycheck. It's the kind of peace that settles deep in your chest when your heart finally stops searching. That's the peace this man found when he embraced Islam. Not a surface-level calm, but a deep, grounding, soul-level stillness. A peace that made him feel like, finally, he was home. His life before Islam wasn't chaotic on the outside, but inside there was a storm. Questions without answers, motions without meaning, smiles without joy. And when he found Islam, not just the name, but the message, something changed. He began to live on purpose. He found structure, discipline, and most importantly, contentment. Let's take a moment, breathe, reset your focus. If you've ever gone to bed feeling exhausted by life, wondering, is this all there is? You're not alone, and more importantly, you're not stuck. This man's transformation shows us something profound. Peace isn't the absence of struggle, it's the presence of God within the struggle. Islam didn't erase his problems, but it gave him the tools to face them, with faith, with patience, with strength. He stopped chasing happiness and started living in alignment. He prayed, not just with words, but with his whole being. He learned to surrender, not in weakness, but in trust. And from that surrender came a peace that no storm could shake. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you lived with that kind of peace? Not just on Sundays, not just in moments of success, but every single day. Because peace isn't a fantasy, it's a choice. And sometimes that choice begins with the courage to ask, what if the life I've been looking for is already calling me? There's a certain kind of strength that doesn't show up in crowds or applause. It's the strength to stand alone, to walk a path when others don't understand, to believe in something so deeply that you're willing to risk being misunderstood, even rejected. That's the kind of courage this man showed when he embraced Islam, knowing full well the weight that came with it. He knew his decision would spark conversations. He knew there would be people who'd question his sanity, his loyalty, even his identity. But he also knew this: truth is not a popularity contest, and when your soul finds what it's been looking for, you don't need everyone to agree, you just need the courage to stand in it. Let's pause for a second, reset your attention. Have you ever felt that fear, that pressure to fit in, to go with the flow, to stay silent, even when something inside you is screaming for change? This man faced that fear and made a choice, not to be accepted, but to be authentic. And that authenticity gave him more than approval ever could. It gave him peace. It gave him confidence. It gave him a life aligned with truth. You see, true wisdom isn't always celebrated. It's often lonely at first. But those who dare to walk that path end up discovering something priceless: freedom. The freedom to live without pretending. The joy of looking in the mirror and knowing you're living in truth, not just tradition. And here's what's real: every great change starts with someone who's willing to stand alone. So ask yourself, are you waiting for permission to be happy? Or are you ready to step into the life you were created for, even if you have to walk alone to get there? We all have an identity. It's shaped by our family, our culture, our experiences, and the beliefs we hold. But sometimes we find ourselves living in a version of ourselves that isn't fully aligned with who we truly are. We wear masks, we play roles, and somewhere along the way we forget what it feels like to be our authentic selves. This man's journey to Islam was about more than religion. It was about reclaiming his true identity. Before he embraced Islam, he was living a life that was expected of him. A life that was comfortable, but not necessarily fulfilling. A life that looked good on the outside, but felt fragmented on the inside. When he declared his faith and connected with the teachings of Islam, he wasn't just converting to a religion, he was reclaiming his soul. He was choosing to be the man he was always meant to be. The one with purpose, the one with clarity, the one with a mission. Let's pause for a moment, reset your focus. Think about this. How many times have you felt like you were living someone else's version of you? How many times have you made choices based on what others thought you should do, rather than what you deeply felt you were meant to do? This man's transformation wasn't just about adopting a new set of beliefs. It was about aligning his life with his true purpose. He stopped chasing the approval of others. He stopped pretending to be someone he wasn't. And in doing so, he discovered the greatest gift of all: self-empowerment. True happiness doesn't come from external validation. It comes from living in alignment with who you truly are. So ask yourself, what's holding you back from becoming the best version of yourself? The time to reclaim your identity is now. Don't wait another moment. Step into your truth. The life you've always wanted is waiting. The journey of embracing truth is one of courage, self-discovery, and profound transformation. This man's path to Islam was not just about changing his religion, it was about reclaiming his soul, finding peace, and stepping into a life filled with meaning. His story reminds us that real happiness comes when we choose truth over comfort, faith over fear, and purpose over tradition. So to all of you listening, may you find the courage to walk your own path of authenticity and fulfillment. Good luck on your journey. Thank you for taking the time to listen. May peace and happiness guide you always.